I'm Darren Jackal. I'm in my studio. I talk about product development, design, and mountaineering. Welcome to another edition of Experimental Design Discourse and Disclosure. Past few episodes I've been concentrating on a series of episodes that I've been calling On Design, and this is the final episode in this series. I'm going to try and wrap up things today and get ready to move on to what I think are more interesting projects, mainly to do with footwear for mountaineering and severe use. I'm going to try and make this coherent, although there's a bunch of little things that I'm going to try and tie up that may or may not be fluid and make sense, but I just got to get this one done. It's been a bit of a struggle try to finish this one because I'm kind of moving on to the next things, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm actually going to explain a lot of the ideas around footwear for mountaineering and the real differences that will come into play when you look at a lot of the research that's been done on foot and footwear and how those activities are mainly focused around things like running and walking, or perhaps some skiing, but there's not a lot of really good studies that look at performances that do not have a heel contact phase in their motion. So what we're going to see is that a lot of activities really look at heel strike and force attenuation. And if you know anything about climbing or skiing, you'll know that there is no heel strike. You go directly to, in climbing, forefoot loading without a heel contact at all. So there's a lot of differences there, and how the foot operates under these types of circumstances is going to be something I'll need to explain if you're going to try and understand how the foot and the footwear need to work together to provide for these performances. So that's going to come up after this. Let's wrap this one up. I got to talk a little bit about the final design details of the lamp project, and I'm really looking forward to moving on. So stay tuned. That's coming up next. I'm going to wrap up this series on design and this lamp project with talking about a few of the details that are important. But first I want to correct my improper use of the term visual language, and I should have been using the term formal language. Visual language really, in my opinion, refers more to a two-dimensional image, graphic type of work, whereas a formal language is more about a three-dimensional object in that it pertains to form. So first thing I want to do is look at what I think is the visual language relating to the frame and the base, which I think of as more cold, rectilinear, just hard surfaces, as opposed to the more organic and more natural form of the lens. And let's just talk a bit about the details here. So if we look at this lens, you can see that the horizontal components are crossed in between the vertical elements, and that there is a weaving of the planes, whereas this is inside, inside, outside, outside. And this is something that was something that didn't quite sit well with people, and I got a lot of opinions on this. And so I've altered that with these, and there's no longer a weaving of that sort of nature. It's more of a simple construct. So it does provide a different look that I think is proper. And things like this curve violating the cross piece, so this piece could be proud in the hierarchy, and as opposed to it being down here and being a little more subservient to the frame, right? So I think of this as more of an organic sort of structure, like a nest in a transformer line, you know, like this is cold and hard and rectilinear. This is more organic, it's more woven, it's softer. And the final one here is, you know, it's got these curves here, which provide a reveal for the switch, and this piece here is really this particular form. Now these have not been cut to length, so basic, essentially the length of these sticks and how they're cut is a detail that's, takes a bit of time to consider. So this is the piece that sits inside here. It really does clean up the frame right from what it was in this situation where the horizontal elements were the dominant in the hierarchy, and now this element has become the dominant component, and that allowed me to really place the parts that I don't make inside here and sort of shield them and provide a finished sort of quality to it. Honestly, this really should be done in a way where these components are all integral to the final piece. I had to make a jig for making these things if I was going to make them in numbers, and this is the jig. It just fits on a sander. So this has obviously got a bunch of drilled holes in it that have to be done pretty precisely for this to all work out properly. And then it needs to be reduced from a block form and sanded down, and this is what this is. So I'm able to put this on my spindle sanders, and spin this as I sand, and I can use this to put stops on and keep it from being, because it's easy to over sand these and lose them. This is sort of the details I wanted to finish up talking about, and now we can hopefully move on. Just some final thoughts on this episode about the lamp and a discussion about design and a bunch of other things to finish this off. So to start with, the lamp, as I said, is as I consider to be a failure. Now, could I iterate myself into a more successful product with this basic idea? And I think the answer to that is, of course, a yes. I just have zero interest in this project. I did it as a case study in the past little while just to sort of clean it out of my brain. I had a few of these lamps out there in the wild, 3 of them, and every time I would visit the people who had these lamps, I would see the crazed and cracked lenses, and that drove me a bit crazy. And one of my friends who has one of the lamps expressed an interest in getting new lenses for it. So I resurrected it. I had a bunch of these frames laying around that I had in storage, and I found a few years ago. And so I decided I would take one more crack at it and do a case study on it. So using it to discuss design ideas and principles, methods has been useful to me. And now I can just move on from this. I'm going to wrap this up. I don't know what will become of all the spare parts I have, but I just have zero interest in it. So at this point, I'm going to wrap this up and move on to disclosing of intellectual property, starting with the foot and the footwear ideas. So that's it. I'm Darren Jackal. I'm in my studio. I talk about product development, design, mountaineering. Thanks again for coming by. This has been another episode of Experimental Design Discourse and Disclosure. We'll see you next time.